Hello, everyone. This is a brief description, man, not so brief. It'll take a little while, but not too long, of how to do um, posting about various cool success stories and facts and figures for the Entrepreneurship Club. And as we move forward, eventually for the broader entrepreneurship program we're building, including the incubator and some additional course offerings we're planning and some thought leadership research and all kinds of other stuff. But basically, the idea here is we want to take a whole bunch of information, in this particular case, a list of all the projects that my students did in their Management 3450 classes last spring. That's point number one. Point number two, we're going to use the latest version of the Entrepreneurship Center brochure or PowerPoint deck that's got updated facts and figures about the club in it. And then the third thing is a summary of our speaker panel series that we did this past year, which has some more facts and figures in it. So the goal here, it's really tough for me to find the time to go in and just cherry pick interesting facts and figures or interesting stories and write up a couple sentences, no more than one or two sentences, maybe three, and put a picture together with those and post them, excuse me, to our social media management software called Agorapulse. It's just very time consuming work, and I need the help of the various club leaders to do this. I'll continue to help you guys, but it's just too much time for me to do myself. So it's also a good experience for you guys to learn how to take raw information and tell compelling advertising and PR stories for whatever company you work for in the future. So um, let me pull up here quick the posting software, and then we'll have everything on the screen that we need. Agora Pulse, PULSE.com. You can see it here at the top of the screen. That is the website that you need to go to post. You can basically plan and schedule posts to all three of our social media platforms. We don't have a Twitter account right now, but we'll deal with that later this fall. Right now, we have for the club a Facebook account, an Instagram account, and a LinkedIn account. And this Agorapulse software will schedule in advance posts and put them automatically on all three of those platforms. So it's a nice centralized way to manage things. So we'll go to this site, and when you get there, you need to click on log in. And then when you log in, don't use Facebook. Use our specific account. So that's jwood7 at csub.edu. That's the username or the email account. And the password is J, all lowercase, JAW60270. So once again, that's JAW60270 with all the letters lowercase. And that is not a password I use for any of my other accounts in this world. So um, don't even think don't even think about remembering that password for anything else. Okay. Um, so here we are at the software. I'm going to actually close this additional page that's blinking at us. So here's kind of what it looks like. And in order to post things, you're going to need to go to publishing. And then you are going to click on, so after you go to publishing at the top of the page, You're going to click on publish, and then you'll see here you can write a post, basically up to 2,200 characters. LinkedIn and Facebook will let you have more, but in order for us to write one post and then have it post to all three accounts, you need to stick to 2,200 so that it'll fit on Instagram. So you can write whatever you want here. You can attach pictures. So you can either drag and drop or choose images to upload. Blah, 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 blah. So here's that Subway logo we used a while back for something. Just as an example. Actually, that's the picture of our meeting from last December 7th with a sponsored by Subway logo at the bottom that I put in there. So anyway, you can put emojis in there. You can put hashtags. You can link the whole. You can link the whole thing to our club webpage. So CSUB dot. Oh, sorry. This is actually bpa.csub.edu /. I always forget the name of the address. It's hosted on the university's server. So, yeah, there we go. bpa.csub.edu menus, entrepreneurship club, HTML. So we could link things to there if we wanted to. We can put in videos. You guys are all pretty familiar with social media posting, so I shouldn't have to explain too much about what's possible when posting to social media. So anyway, that's an example. I'm gonna delete all this right now, and we'll do an actual post later. One thing I want to point, two more things I want to point out before I delete it. You can see here, add to queue, publish now, or schedule. So for now, I'm going to ask you guys to add things to the queue so that I can actually look at them and edit anything that I think needs to be edited before we publish them. So eventually, once you're feeling comfortable with what you're doing on creating posts, you can just schedule them to be posted. Or if we need to post something right away, then you can just click publish now. But for now, everybody should click on add to the queue, and then that will before it actually gets published. And then just another thing, on the left hand side here, you can actually see what your post is gonna look like on each of the three platforms that we've got set up right now. Like I said, Twitter we're gonna have to set up later this fall. Don't worry about that for now. Right now, our club is present on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So this is what the post will look like on Facebook. Eventually, we can get into like location and targeting and albums. Don't worry about that right now. As soon as I would actually be interested for you guys to start to play with that and just see what everything does. I'm not actually completely familiar with what each of these buttons does, but I imagine it allows us to target exactly where the post appears. So that's what it'll look like on Facebook. If you go over here, click on LinkedIn, this is what it'll look like on LinkedIn. Excuse me. Got some other options for sending to mobile and location. Again, you guys should play with that stuff and see what it does so that you can start doing cool things in the future without me having to tell you to do it first. So you can just do it yourselves, and then you can teach me what all these things do. And then finally, this is what the post will look like on LinkedIn. And again, country and language targeting. If you want, play around with those, but for right now, we don't need to do any of that. So you enter the text and you enter the pictures and hashtags and emojis and everything over here, videos, links, and then you can see on the right side what it's going to look like. And then when you're satisfied with everything, click add to the queue and click on next. For now, I'm going to delete that because that was just an example. We'll do another example of actually writing up a post, and then that'll be it for this little training video for the day. Okay, now that we've got a basic idea of the posting software, now let's talk about the hard part, which is actually creatively coming up with new, short, compelling stories to tell. So, like I said at the beginning here, you've got four basic sources of information that I want you guys to use over basically the rest of the summer um, to schedule posts for our social media. And then as we get closer to the end of the summer, I will supply you with more raw material. And I want to keep going over the coming school year with this similar process. So basically, I give you a bunch of names of companies, brief descriptions of what was done, and maybe some brochures and other stuff, and access, of course, to the contacts database where all of the central information is stored, and to the Google Drive folder where we keep um, all of our pictures and videos and stuff to be able to post. And I want you guys to like be creative and come up with cool stories. That's the hard part. That's the thing that takes a little bit of time and energy, and I'm a bottleneck for it. I just don't have the time to do all of these stories. So I need you guys to really take ownership, like go crazy with it, do it the way you want to do it, but be creative and come up with good stories. So let me show you a couple of examples here. So we'll start out with the class projects. So um, I'm going to put on the central brand management folder with all of our photos and videos and other material. I'm going to put two spreadsheets and two PowerPoint presentations that are going to be your raw material. So first of all, here's the first of two spreadsheets. So this says Management 3450 Class Projects 2019 Section 1. So this was basically this past spring's Management 3450 class projects for Section 1. And then there's a second spreadsheet that says Section 5055. So I had three different sections, two in Bakersfield and one in Antelope Valley. And this is a description of each and every one of the students in the projects. So you can see here, I changed all the names of the students to just student one, student two, student three to stay with standard conventions for keeping student information private. Then I went ahead and left the descriptions that everybody gave me of what their current job is, what their goals were post graduation, and what they'd really love to be 20 years from now, and their long term goals. And then, excuse me, you've got a column for the name of the company they did a project for, and you've got a brief description of what the project was in Project Focus here. So, for example, this student basically is the manager of a private club in town for business people called the Gentleman. This person would like to do work for maybe ERA or the Boys and Girls Club in the future. Long term, would really kind of like to be involved in um, community service types of not for profit work that make the world a better place. This student did a project for the company called Ag Now, and the focus of the project was basically making some improvements to their website and then doing social media marketing for them. So that's a description of the project. And if you go down here, this is actually, excuse me, organized by project companies. So there's a company called Athletes Advantage Academy. Two different students in this section worked on a project for them, basically promoting a cryogenic chamber machine that helps athletes rehab very quickly by exposing their body to very cold temperatures for like 5 minutes to help them recover from training. Bakersfield Coffee Company developed a website. And then we scroll down a little bit here. Truck Tires Warehouse developed a website, blah, 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 all the way down. So you've got all the descriptions of all of the projects here and what the students like current goals are, short-term goals are after graduation, and the long-term goals are. So I thought it might actually be interesting for the class to say something like, um, in addition to, or not for the class. I thought it might be interesting for the club to say something like, um, in addition to, um, like something like uh, one student in one club member. So all of these students, even though some of them are not part of the club, uh, let's just call them club members for the time being, because these are the kinds of projects that increasingly we're going to have members of the club do as well in the future. And as far as the broader entrepreneurship program that we're building, um, all of the stories, all the success stories from students in my classes are part of the entrepreneurship program. So right now, I've kind of been using the words entrepreneurship club and entrepreneurship program interchangeably because we don't have much of a program beyond the club right now, but we will. And it's too hard to describe to people the difference between things that happen in my classes and things that happen in the club. As far as everybody to the outside world is concerned, it's just the entrepreneurship club right now that's doing all these things. Later on, we'll sort of give a more more complex description of the whole institute and entrepreneurship center and what pieces do what. But for now, you can just refer to all these students as club members. So you could say, for example, um, one club member who currently works at a business club in town and wants to get involved with social media, or sorry, wants to get involved with non for profit work in uh, his or her future, worked on a project for a local agriculture company making improvements to their website. Not only did this help the not only did this help the company to achieve better communication with their customers, it also helped the student to better describe potential projects for not-for-profit companies in the future. So, in addition to talking about the actual project, you could also talk about how this helped the student's career in some way. So, the example I just gave is a little bit of a stretch because ag now, as an agriculture company, is not really helping the student that much with a future working for the Boys and Girls Club or a similar not-for-profit in town. Other ones have more direct relation to their careers. So here's a student, for example, here who wants to basically go into sports management and sports marketing in the future. And this student worked on a project for Athletes Advantage Academy, which is a local gym in town here that caters to high school and college athletes and helping them to train to the maximum potential they have possible. So in this case, this student actually, in addition to helping contact basically, I don't know, about 50 new potential customers, he or she also um, was able to develop resume material for a future career in the sports management business. So that's a good example of how it helped the student's career a little bit. So I left all this information in here. You don't have to tell a story about the student every time. You could tell a story about the company. You could tell about a story about the students. You can tell stories. Sometimes really interesting stories are the big picture stories. So, like, if you just go in here and look, student one, student two, student three, blah, 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 all the way down to the bottom, there were 38 students in this section. And then I started numbering again with student 39 in the second spreadsheet. So if you go down to the bottom, you'll see that there were almost 80 students in my two sections of small business management this past spring. And then you could actually count the number of projects. So you could say something like, this past spring, over 80 club members were involved in working on projects for local small businesses. Period. Like that would be, I usually like to include two sentences like over 80 students were involved working, or nearly 80, or you could say over 80, because we had a couple club members who were not in my classes who also did internships and projects that are not listed in these spreadsheets right now. So you could say over 80 as well. It's close enough. students uh, worked on projects for local small businesses this past spring. Then you could maybe count up the number of companies. So that you're going to have to do a little bit more like counting rather than just looking at the number of students. So Valley Pumping is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Actually, this is the same company. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So there's actually 20 projects on this page, and 78 minus 39 is 39. So there's 28 projects, or 20 projects and 39 students on this page, and you could count the same number on the other page. So it's more or less 70, about 80 students working on roughly 20 projects for local small businesses this past spring, period. And then you could put a picture with that of some kind. So if we go back to the software, oops, here we go, and we go to publish, we could say club success story. This past spring, we had over 80 students, club members working on projects for roughly 40 local businesses. And then you could go to pictures and choose images, and more or less, this is actually on my local drive, but you could actually go to, I don't know if this actually allows you to go to the internet or not. Let's find out. No, it doesn't. So anyway, um, you could type something like that, and then um, go to the Google Drive folder and find a picture that matches well with that. So let's see here. Speaker panel, Bakersfield, Californian. Pens, none of those look very good. Stock image. So this is actually just a picture that I found on Google Images a while back that I used for one of our other posts. Um, so as an example, let's use this. So club success story. This past spring, we had over 80 club members working on projects for roughly 40 local small businesses. Move this a little bit, and now we added that picture, and we go to add to queue, next, and we will add this post to your queue. Queue next. We'll add this post on the top of your queue. Queue last. Queue next. Go ahead and leave it as queue last because I want to address your posts in the order that you make them. So whoever makes the first post is the one that I'll evaluate. Leave it on queue last, and then apply options. Entrepreneurship Club. Let's move this a little bit. So you can choose categories, and we don't actually have any categories right now. We can develop that later in the summer. Right now, just leave it on apply options to, and then queue. So you'll notice, if we move this again, queued. Interesting. So let's actually, I'm going to pause this for a second. Okay, I've actually not used the queuing function before, so I actually want you guys to do something slightly different. Um, I want you to go in here and actually send for approval rather than queue. So go ahead and assign that to approval and save changes. And now I have things to approve. So whenever you queue something, um, click on send for approval when you're done and select my name. And then I can take a look at it quick and then let it go for publishing. So let me edit all these quick. Assign. Save changes. Cool. So that's scheduled for approval by me for later today. Now, let me give you another example of stories you can put in. So that was one example where you just count the number of students and the number of projects and say something about that. Another thing you could do is describe a specific project. So you've got 40 different projects to choose from. And if you just go in, let's choose JC Collision Center here, for example. As soon as I've resolved some of the problems that folks are having with the contact database right now, you'll be able to see a contact database that looks like this. Or when you first open it, it might look like this, but then you just go to the top of the page here and select list, and it should just like list things in a way that's a good overview for you. So, um, if you wanted to write a story about JC Collision Center and how the project turned out, then um, you could go to the database, sorry, and type in JC Collision Center, and there it is. So double click on that, and that opens up the contact file. And the contact file has attached emails that describe everything that was done for the project. So you'll see here, just yesterday, I sent an email with the results of the student's work and talking about what we could do next with the company. Um, so if we open up here, those are the emails that I sent to the client. So this is actually a pretty good example for you guys. If you just double click on this JC Collision Center thing here, you can see this is actually what the project the student did. So the student basically developed a big spreadsheet with lots of phone calls and emails that he/she did. I don't want to say whether this is male or female because I'm trying to keep the students' identities kind of confidential. So anyway, this student went through and called a bunch of local insurance companies to figure out uh, how the the company here, JC Collision Center, could become an authorized uh, repair facility for the insurance company. So that means that when somebody has an accident and they call AAA, like you can see here on the first line, and say, "Hey, I had an accident. I need my car repaired." AAA says, "Okay, here's a list of three like repair shops in Bakersfield you can go to that are approved by us." and then you choose one of those shops and you go and you get your car repaired, and that shop gets paid by AAA for fixing your car. So obviously, our client here, the business we're doing a project for, JC Collision Center, they really want to get referred business from AAA. So they asked one of our students to call a bunch of local insurance companies and find out what do they have to do to become a licensed or an official uh, um, repair facility. So you can see here bunch of different names of companies. You can see the descriptions of what was done. Enable editing and make it easier for us to look at the sheet here. Called April 22nd, was told go to our website, scroll down all the way, discover AAA, click on become AAA approved facility. So that's the next thing they have to do there. State Farm called April 23rd. There's another State Farm, so no need to call twice to the same record. This spreadsheet. Normally, when you see spreadsheets like this in one of my students' projects or one of the club members' projects, um, they're taken from a database called Reference USA that we have a subscription to here at CSUB. So the name of the company, the phone number, the contact name, all of that is already downloaded from a database we have. And then the student's job is basically to add this column here that says notes and call and send emails to a bunch of companies and find opportunities for this client to be an official repair facility. So you can see here different 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So you can see here, just in the first couple pages, there's 15, 16 different lines where the student left notes about what he or she had done for that call. So one of the things you could do is count up, like, excuse me, how many calls or how many emails did the student send for this project? So a post for this might look something like this. So you go publishing again, click publish, and you could write club success story. Or you could write, we always like to change up the wording a little bit. So maybe write local business project. One of our club members did a project last spring for a local auto repair facility. Um, he, I can't avoid, you can just choose he or she. Whether it's the right gender or not doesn't really matter for the purposes of social media posting. So we'll just say he for now, since in this case I actually know that the student was a he, but you guys won't know necessarily, so you can just say either one. He was asked to help the company find find new opportunities to become an official repair facility for insurance companies. He contacted approximately okay, let's say you went ahead and counted all these and you came up with 75, approximately 75 insurance company um, contacts and identified several new contracting opportunities for the client. Now, if you really wanted to get specific, you could actually go in here and read the notes that the student wrote for each of these things. Couldn't connect without an agent code. Called 525, was given this address to go to, Allstate Procurement. Left voicemail. So out of these three, there's one where actually he found something to do next. Couldn't connect on it. Leave voicemail. Called 5-4, was told specifically where GC needs to go to the website, go to Allstate Procurement, My Supplier Network Profile. So that's another one where he actually got information. But those are all three about Allstate, so we could actually say that they're just one opportunity. So if you really wanted to get specific, you could read through each of these actual notes on what the student did, and then you could write down, for example, if we go back to the post, identified instead of several, 10 new contracting opportunities for the client. And then if you really wanted to get creative, and this is where the true skill or art in doing PR posts and online advertising comes. You want to be as specific as possible. You want to offer numbers for dollar amounts, number of customers, value of assets, things like that. The same stuff I always talk about for everybody's resumes. So, if you wanted to make an estimate for dollar value here, you could do a couple different things. You could, off the top of your head, think, okay, how much does an average car repair cost? So, you could go online. You could go to Google and find out, like, average car repair costs. A new timing belt on average between $400 and $900. How to budget for car maintenance. How much is the average car repair bill? This is interesting. Yep. The average auto repair bill becomes $500 to $600. So that's an interesting one. So if we go with $500 as the average amount of a car repair, usually the profit margin markup for any like any type of business, it gets more specific and more complicated depending on if you're an auto repair business or you're a um, like aerospace company or you're an agriculture company. But let's say on average that profit margin markup is 25%. Like that's a good ballpark number. A lot of times it's higher, sometimes it's lower, but let's just say 25%. So $500 times, if we go back to our post here, 10 opportunities, that's $5,000 and 25% profit margin. So that would be 5,000 times 25, which is basically $1,250. So that's the potential profit, or $5,000 is the potential revenue. So you could also put these opportunities represent approximately, no, let's use roughly since we used the word approximately before. Roughly $5,000 in potential revenue and $1,250 in. Let's actually don't be too specific. So just say over $1,000 in potential period. So there you put a dollar figure on there as well. That's even more specific. You could also calculate a different dollar figure. So instead of saying opportunities and how much the actual revenues could be, you could be more conservative and you could think, well, how long does it take for a student to make phone calls? So if you think about, like, just imagine picking up the phone. You could even do it once to just to time yourself. But called 5-4, was told they decided this stuff at the claims office in Missouri. So, um, that probably took 30 seconds to make that phone call. And another 20 seconds to type in the information. Probably it took 30 seconds total. So let's just say 30 seconds total because the student was probably typing while he was calling. So 30 seconds to do that. And um, probably another half an hour to an hour to actually download and set up the whole spreadsheet here from the database. So that gives us 30 seconds per call and um, another hour, let's say, for setup. So 30 seconds per call times 75 calls is. Good question. Let's use Excel here to make that calculation. Equals 30 times 75 equals this divided by 60 equals this divided by 60.625. That's not very impressive. So the more impressive number here is the number of opportunities because you actually, if you calculate the number of hours spent on this project based on the numbers I just threw out there off the top of my head, this would be an hour for setup and about 0.625 hours of actual calls and typing. It was probably more than that. But based on that calculation, we'd have roughly 2 hours worth of um, we'd have 2 hours worth of work, and if that were at a standard minimum wage rate of $15, which is what it's going to be in the future. I think it's still 12 right now, but 2 hours at 25 at $15 an hour is 30 bucks. Oops, 30 bucks worth of labor value. Um, that's not very impressive. In general, I've estimated in the past that on average, my students' projects require about um, they're on average one project is worth about 500 bucks. Um, that's the ballpark number I've been using. A lot of the projects are um, website development projects, um, and usually the quotes that people have gotten for somebody in the community, like an actual company to make its website for them, have been around $1,000, sometimes a little bit less. So um, I've just estimated that my students could do it for half that value rather than $1,000, like the normal company's quote for making a website. So that would mean each project is worth at least 500 bucks. So 500 bucks, 100 divided by 15 is about 30 hours worth of student effort, which if my students actually spent as much time as I'd like to them to on their projects for a 15-week semester is about 2 hours a week equals this times or divided by 15 weeks, 2 hours a week. So I would like my students to spend 2 hours a week on their projects. They don't really do that very much right now. So um, probably the labor value is less than $500 a project, but the actual accomplishments are sometimes worth more than $500 a project. So this is a long way of just giving you guys lots of examples of how to think of dollar figures and numbers of customers, numbers of calls made, numbers of emails sent, things like that for projects. Another thing would be to actually count in a web development project the number of pages developed or the number of words that were written, the number of pictures and images that were included. You can count anything, and the more you're able to give numbers to things, the more impressive the stories sound. So, uh, this is a lot of different material for you to think about. Um, and I really want you to, I want you to really go, really let yourself get creative. Like, I'm going to approve these texts for you. So, don't worry about like making a mistake. Really try to be creative and give cool descriptions of these projects and add numbers to them. And then you can, if you have enough room in the post, since I'm approving it, you could even put in parentheses how you like calculated the numbers. So if you were typing this one and you weren't sure if I was, you weren't sure if you got the numbers right, you've got like 1,700 words left. So you could actually put in parentheses $5,000. So 500 per repair job times 10 jobs in potential revenues over um, and or you could estimate 25% profit margin. So you could even type that in there so I can see what your logic was. And then I can approve it and I can make a note of how you came up with the logic. So eventually, I want you guys to just post these things without me having to approve them all. So um, don't get too much in the habit of writing down the actual logic in here. Um, but for now, if you have enough space, you got 2,000 characters. You can write the logic in there, and then I can approve it, and that'll actually be a good process for us to go by for now. So, okay, your post is done. Then go find a picture. Um, in this case, it's JC Collision Center. So they actually have a website. You can see that in the contact here. So let's go to JC Collision Center and let's actually download a picture of their logo. Save image as PNG image JC Collision Center. Okay. Close that. Now go back here. Oh, nope. Go back here to Agorapulse. Choose images to upload. And we should be able to find, there we go, the picture we just saved. So now you can attach a copy of the logo of the company here and then add to queue. No, publish schedule. No, add to queue. That's it. Add to queue. Instagram requires the image aspect ratio to be. Please edit or crop the image and re-upload it again. Let's just forget about Instagram for now. And then let's send this for approval. Assign. Now, once you get comfortable, you could actually go in and pull up that image with your like video or image editing software. I use, depending on what it is, I either use Adobe Photoshop or I just use Paint. So you could actually pull that. You could pull that picture up here in Paint. JC Collision Center, open, and you could, let's see here, menu. Nope, that's not going to do it. So if you, I think I closed Paint. Anyway, don't worry about that right now. If you get creative, open up the image and change the shape. Basically, you have to have a certain size of photo, like height, a kind of proportion to width, in order for it to fit on Instagram. So if you really got comfortable, then you could actually go in, open up Photoshop or Paint, or you could use Pixlr, Pixlr.com online. You could use any of these and edit the picture so it actually fits on Instagram. And then, like Agorapulse would be able to publish that same post to all three profiles instead of just two. So there's another example of what you could do. This is almost an hour long now. I didn't mean for the video to get this long. So I'm going to give a couple more examples. And then if that's not enough for you guys, I can record another one with some more examples later. But this should get you started. So those are all the different projects. All of the projects have a company attached to them that you could actually go to the you can go to the club database and you can look up the company. And when you look up the company, there'll be attached emails, there'll be notes in the notes section. Just open up all the attached emails, open up the notes, and you can actually see what the students did for each project. So for that, you actually have like 40 different projects that you could describe. And you could like add them all together. You can add the number of students together. So there's lots of stuff you could do from these spreadsheets. Now, there's also two brochures or updates that I sent you. So you can also go in and take posts out of the Entrepreneurship Center excuse me, brochure, or out of the summary of our speaker series from last academic year. So if you went through the Entrepreneurship Club brochure, um, you could just like come in here and take the vision and the mission. So um, here's another public post. So you could just post in here the CSUB Entrepreneurship Club vision is that change capitalization here is that we are dedicated to turning the entrepreneurial potential on the CSUB campus into concrete new value for the Kern County community. Excuse me. Um, then you can put the mission in here. We accomplish our mission, accomplish our vision by facilitating student project internships, blah, 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 blah. That's a nice, like, general introduction or statement about the club. And now let's put a picture in there again. So choose images to upload. Um, let's see here. Light bulb look. Actually, maybe for this one we put in the actual like the club logo. We actually have a new club logo, but um, that's actually in the Google Drive location, so it's not on my local drive right now. So here's an example of attaching the light bulb. Let's actually do this right though. Um, so we'll dum da dum da dum. Take that out. Let's do this the correct way. And we'll go to the Google Drive folder. And the folder for the brand management committee with all the pictures is right here. So here's a picture. I think, which is of all the club members after our leadership meeting. So if we wanted to use that, we could actually. I'm not sure if we can copy and paste directly into. Um, no, it doesn't allow you to. So. Um, hmm. So let's open that up and then download it. And then we'll open the download. Uh, Save as. Oh, look, I already downloaded everything. So, well, some of it, not all of it. Anyway, photo one from brand management folder. Okay. So now, instead of using the old club logo, we could take a picture of the club meeting from like, the middle of May. And there's what it would look like. Add to queue. Send for approval. There we go. We got another one queued up. So there's an example of what you could do from the slides. You could also go in here and, you know, we have over 300 active members and 1,250 listserv subscribers. Our goal is to grow. Like, you could take any of the information in these 23 pages of brochure and you could put it into a social media post and connect a picture or a video of some kind to it. Um, you could also describe our speaker series. So one of our biggest things we did with the club last year was our club speaker series. You can see here like who the speakers were. You can see like, actually, don't worry about the cost so much. This was actually a report for our internal fundraising people about how much we actually used from our donor for each of the events. But you could talk about the number of venture ideas discussed. You could talk about what the ideas were. You could talk about the number of job opportunities that the students were exposed to. You can actually use the pictures and brochures that are in here as well. Not all of them are folder right now. There's some of them are just in the actual files, or actually the actual PowerPoint presentations. So you could do any of that to post things on our social media. And since you can like schedule things for approval, um, you can basically go really crazy and don't worry. I'll be the net below you guys on the tightrope, so you can make whatever like claims about numbers and dollars and all that you want. I'll make sure to go back and correct anything that I think might be uh, too much, too far from reality to post. I'll check them before they get published. But the really time consuming thing you can see here, we just spent an hour on this video, like describing everything for 3 posts. And it won't take you guys an hour for each post. It'll probably take you more like 10 minutes, but those 10 minutes add up. And I just don't have the time to do it each week. So I really need help from the club leaders to create these posts. And like I said, it's a really valuable skill for the businesses you all want to build for yourselves in the future. It's a really valuable skill for your jobs, to be able to take raw information like this and turn it into a nifty PR statement. it's a certain skill that is very like valuable to develop. So that should be it for the video for now. If there's anything else, I'll develop an additional video, but that should give you guys enough to get started on doing posting later this week or next week. So thanks again to everybody for your help, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye bye.